Councillor Johnnick. Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee this 10th day of November 2022. Looking around at councillors' attendance, and I see Councillor Johnnick is just entering the room, so that means everyone within the committee is here today. Move on to the acknowledgement of country. Ipswich City Council respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners as custodians of the land upon which we meet. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging as the keepers of the traditions, cultures and stories of a proud people. Do any committee members have any declarations of interest in matters on the agenda today? No? There is nil business outstanding, so we will move on to item number 1, which is the confirmation of minutes of the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee of the 13th of October 2022. Does anyone have any questions for the relevant council officer? No? Okay, I will move that, and can I have a seconder please? Thank you, Councillor Milligan. Does anyone have any discussion on the item? No? We'll put the motion. All those in favour, noting that's unanimous and carried. Moving on to item number 2, which is the first of the officers' reports, and that is the ministerial exemption for leasing Nicholas Street precinct, and it's concerning a forthcoming application for a ministerial exemption associated with the Nicholas Street precinct's retail and commercial leasing program. Does any members of the committee have any questions for the relevant council officer? I do, thank you.
Greg Thomas, Nicholas Street Precinct.
Thank you, Mr Thomas. I am aware, obviously, that we have the ministerial exemption in place, and the date is for expiry is approaching, and I note the report is talking about, rather than requesting an extension, we're making a new application because we're including some additional properties. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the land to the immediate west of the precinct, known as the Ellenborough Street land, which is basically between Ellenborough Street, Tulmer Place, and bounded by Bremer Street and the railway line to the south. So that land is coming in for potential commercial leasing by someone down the track. So not only that, some of the land has been reconfigured since 2019 through various amalgamations, the exclusion, for example, of Bell Street Green from the Tulmer Place lot. So issues like that, the amalgamation with Commonwealth Hotel site with that lot as well. So those changes also reflect, because at the end of the day, the ministerial exemption applies to the lot of land, not the building. So for all those reasons, our discussion with the Department of Local Government has indicated that a new application is preferred. Okay,
fantastic. And we talk about the disposal of land. Does the definition of disposal, is that meant to cover
yeah, so disposal of a non-current asset under the regulation relates to both its divestment, but also a lease or a sublease of a subject piece of land. So it covers both of those issues. So our exemption is purely to do with the leasing and subleasing of the subject properties.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
I will move the recommendation that the report concerning a forthcoming application for a ministerial exemption be received and the contents noted. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Mayor Harding. I'll now open up for discussion. No?
I guess if I may, Chair, just note that this council continues to ensure that we behave and all our activities are done with such a high level of integrity and with good governance. So I just comment the team on ensuring that that is happening on this development.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I guess it's probably timely just to summarise for those at home in relation to this item. Retail and commercial leasing is generally not undertaken through a tender or auction process, and obviously we have requirements under the Local Government Act. So the current exemption permitted council to effectively implement the retail strategy that we have within Nicholas Street Precinct and accept market, terms for each transaction. So in September 2019, the Minister approved the exemption, but it's important to note that as part of that exemption, there were a number of conditions, and one of those conditions requires council to report regularly to the Minister, outlining details of each of the commercial leases and the due diligence that's undertaken for each of those transactions, which is conducted by Knight Frank. So the state is absolutely aware every quarter the detail of the transactions that are being put together within the precinct. There's nothing further. We will put that motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous and carried. Moving on to item number 3, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct Brand and Activation Manager Report for October 2022. Does anyone have any questions for the relevant council officer? I do, please. Please state your name and
Karen
title.
Sutton, Brand and Activation Manager for the Nicholas Street Precinct.
Thank you, Ms Sutton. I am delighted by the activity we've had over the last month. Great job. The activation has been first class and residents have been really, really impressed.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
thank
Our
you.
Halloween, we were so ecstatic with that event. We had so many happy families and kids just all dressed up, running around, just disco, just so much fun. It was really wonderful to see. We had a really great turnout.
So would it be correct to say we haven't seen those numbers probably since Christmas?
Absolutely.
And so how did we manage the boring stuff? How did we manage the safety and the movement of those, noting, was our road open? Probably not at that point.
it was, actually.
It was? Just, yep.
Yes, so our road had just opened. We also took the opportunity on Halloween to turn on the facade and have some great projection lights up there, which again was really well received by the community. All of our school holiday and events that are involving kids in large crowds, we always have medics on board and also security in place. So we're really actively involving and keep those services informed of our events and have a great presence there.
Okay, fantastic. Any other questions? No? Thank you. The recommendation that the Nicholas Street Precinct Communications, Engagement and Events Monthly Report be received and the contents noted. I will move that. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. Any discussion? No? Oh, sorry.
Just to say that I was down there for one of the spook things.
And you were spooked?
No, I wasn't spooked, but I was excited by the vibe and the number of people that were there, and also the obvious efficiency of the organisation of the event as well. So it was really, really very good.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
agree. I'm very impressed. Each of the events are very well run. Councillor Milligan, is there something?
Sorry, Chair, I was just asking Councillor Kunzman what her costume was.
And Councillor Kunzelman said she doesn't do costume.
Thank you. There's nothing further. We'll put to the motion. Sorry, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Looking around the room, noting that's unanimous and carried. We move on to the final item on the agenda, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee report for October 2022. Do we have any questions for the relevant council officer? I will. please state your name and title.
James Hepburn, and Precinct Director for Nicholas Street Precinct.
Thank you, Mr Hepburn. I'm just interested to hear, I think I mentioned last month, since the announcement of Hoyts, our anchor tenant, how is the leasing program going? Have we seen an increase in interest?
We've seen some level of interest, particularly within Metro. I'll come back to perhaps venue in a moment. Since last month, we reported, I think, to this committee that we had agreed heads of terms with a local burger house, which is now progressing through legals. So that represents the +1 change from September within this report. Only last week, we have also agreed heads of terms with a financial institution to come and put a retail within Metro B as well. So in next month's report, you'll see another +1 come into that space. So that's starting to really fill up the Metro tenancies and provides an anchor now between the train station, which is where this unit will go, and then Terry White on the retail services side. Okay. I think as we lead ourselves into Christmas now, all of the tenants that we've been talking to have got one thing in mind, and that's purely focused on trade over the Christmas period and trying to draw as much money into their business as possible. So it's pretty traditional in real estate leasing that our comms and communications with the property teams will die off as they divert their interest into making as much money as possible over the festive period.
Sushi and coffee, Stella Rossa.
Yeah.
How far away are we from opening?
We are getting much closer on Stella Rossa. They are showing really good signs of progress, and you can really see the whole shop and cafes coming about when visiting on site. The nail bar is the other one that's progressing quite well at the moment, and we're hoping they're going to make it before Christmas, but I think as they start to get a bit closer, they're going to worry about opening into a very quiet period for a month, and they may well come back and request that they look at relaunching in the new year, which we don't see necessarily as a problem, as it's going to be quite difficult for us to open the Metro Mall essentially with just one tenancy within it. The Sushi Hyo are also struggling a little bit with their fit out. We noticed last week in particular that their contractor went off site and was focusing on another site down towards Brisbane, and we're hoping they're going to come back this week and start picking up the pace again. So we're watching them with careful eyes at the moment. Okay. What I will say is it's a bit difficult to control a third party's fit out contractor. You know, we have mechanisms within the agreement for lease and the incentive deeds, but ultimately what happens is they chew into their own rent-free time. So the onus really is still on them to get going. But,
so the incentive for them to complete the fit out?
Absolutely. But we're at a difficult moment in the year, as I mentioned, and there's a lot of focus from these retailers on their existing establishments and making sure they're all up and running.
And so that was going to be my next question, but you've kind of already addressed that. Do we go into a quiet period? Is it December and January with respect to finalising legals and leases?
I think with the two that we have in play, in terms of the burgers and the bank, we're hopeful that we've got actually a good moment for lawyers just to do what lawyers do and close something out before Christmas, which would be good. And it'll put us in good stead to start looking at how we bring those works forwards in the new year. I don't see any other new deals coming through until probably later January when the market starts picking up again. And I'll come back to the point I mentioned earlier about the venue building. With Hoyts in play and now with construction works well underway on site, we'll be looking at finalising the retail leasing plans for the venue building, which as it stands can house up to at least maybe 10 other tenants. And then we'll be looking for a new marketing and leasing launch of that building in the new year, which should be quite exciting. And with that will come numerous other renders, pictures, and perhaps even fly-throughs of the experience that people are going to get there.
Okay. Interaction between humans and cars now that Nicholas Street has opened up to vehicles. I have received mixed views from the public around this. A lot of people acknowledge that at the moment the vehicles are needed to support the existing businesses from a delivery point of view and to boost the foot traffic. Safe City are monitoring, I assume, via cameras. Have we encountered any problems?
Not to my knowledge. We've not encountered any problems yet. It's been slow to take up in terms of car traffic, which is good. There's been no mad rush. It's not as if it's a quick route through to cutting out a set of lights. You know, with the speed humps and with the design of the pedestrian realm and the road, that it's obvious that power's been handed back to the pedestrian in this space. And so it's for the cars to really note that. And from all of our, I think from the general view from the team is whenever we stood there and just watched a few cars come through, that they come through very slowly. I think what I will say about this weekend coming, we have the handmade markets who are doing their largest market to date, and that will find its way up Nicholas Street and onto the terrace in front of Metro and this building. We've made a decision to keep the road open for that market, but also put more staff on in high vis just to make sure that we educate people and cars as these two are starting to come together. I think that will bring footfall, drop off. It will make sure that the market's more accessible to people in the community. And slowly but surely, everybody will learn how to use the space together.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Hepburn? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The recommendation that the October 2022 retail sub-project steering committee report be received and the contents noted. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Mayor Harding, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. Is there any discussion? Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, and I'm pleased that you raised the matter of the cars coming through, because it has been, I think, a lot of discussion in the community from people just delighted to the way about safety. So thank you very much for highlighting the safety and the design that was put in Nicholas Street. Overwhelmingly, I've had a lot of people who have accessibility issues, people with disabilities or older people who have issues. I can't tell you what a difference it has made and how pleased they, and I guess that's that being an inclusive community and how important it is to be able to, rather than park in the car park and then go to the lift and go up. It's been really appreciated by so many people who are usually, more vulnerable people in our community. So it's been good to see that, as well as obviously the commercial benefits for the businesses there that can do more of those delivery apps. Things. And probably secondly, I'd like to raise, if I may, Chair, I went to Riverlink again, and there's another few shops opening up there. I just see on Facebook 4 hours ago, the little pretzel shop, which will be up at not in the council-owned part of the mall, but up privately owned, up near the news agency there, is opening next Wednesday, the 16th of November. So it's just delightful to see that it's been that catalyst to improve all the CBD and Riverlink, as well as our own Civica Plaza here.
Yeah, I agree. It's fantastic. Anything further? No? We will put the motion. All those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. There are no notices of motion, no matters arising. The meeting is closed at 1:58. Thank you.